Hi everyone, the market is a little down today, but it's really nothing to worry about. This crazy trend I've been observing is what I truly want to show you. I follow many different experts, and in the past day or so, they have all essentially become ferocious. As an example, I'm browsing through my feed and seeing nothing but bullish posts. With the exception of one man, we are on the verge of a bear market, according to one analyst. Could he be the room's genius? Perhaps. Sometimes, when everyone else fails to see the obvious, the lone wolf gets it right. It occurs. The problem is that I've been doing this long enough to pick up on anything. This particular group of analysts I follow tends to be spot on once they start going in the same way. As a group, they have a rather impressive track record. And now, what are they saying? That the grand finish, one more explosive run, is what we're preparing for. And the star of the show will be XRP. XRP is finally going to have its moment after being ignored, knocked down, labeled a security, etc. for almost a decade. And this time it's more than just hype. The validation has already been placed. Regulatory approval. Verify. Unprecedented highs in the last year. The really crazy portion hasn't arrived yet. That last run when it simply blows up and leaves everyone stunned. And I firmly believe that will happen. Like I totally bought in. Am I mistaken? Of course. Together, we'll find out. However, this conviction wasn't something I came up with on my own. To be honest, if this didn't occur, it would be weird. The only way I can see this going wrong is if we see a huge unanticipated catastrophe that wipes out the market for years. We're not going into bear mode all of a sudden, unless something really severe happens. And hold on till you see the chart analysis that I'll be showing you. Several XRP analysts have been dissecting this. One of them investigated when XRP was last configured in a cycle like this. Curious about what transpired next, it increased by 130 times. 130 times. It's actually quite mild when folks believe I'm dreaming when I mention that XRP is hitting double digits. Some analysts are requesting $20 or even $30. Are we going to arrive? Who knows? However, the point is that these aren't absurd figures to be flinging around. I must mention something quickly before we go any farther. I am by no means a specialist in finance. I don't offer any guidance here. Don't base your purchase or sale on my videos. You're to blame for that. Thus, the date is October 21st, 2025, a Tuesday. The price of XRP is a cool $2.43. Bitcoin is hovering around $108,000. I understand your thoughts now. Why am I going to discuss stocks? This channel is for cryptocurrency. I understand, I promise. I don't spend my time getting giddy over the S&P 500 or anything else. Here's the thing though. For cryptocurrency, the stock market is essentially my crystal ball. It's not flawless, but close enough. Traders refer to both as risk-on assets. Both increase when people feel comfortable taking chances. They both fall when they are frightened. They resemble each other. They do the same thing most of the time. However, they do fight occasionally. Therefore, I'm already mentally getting ready for cryptocurrency to follow. If I see the stock market going insane to the upside, this is simply the way the game operates. When it comes to cryptocurrency, ignoring stocks is like disregarding the weather when organizing a beach vacation. You could get away with it, but why risk it? Ryan Dietrich just published this post. At Carson Group, he is in charge of making decisions on market strategy. Man, this chart he showed shows a bullish VIX with equities close to all-time highs. Let me share his writing with you. He claims that as the S&P 500 was close to all-time highs on Friday, the VIX, that volatility index that everyone watches, almost hit 29. Anything similar to this has caused massive meltdowns in the late 1990s. Yes, this signal did eventually reach its peak in 2020-2021. However, the initial signal in earlier clusters showed incredibly strong future returns. We're discussing an unusual signal that literally just went off in this chart that you're currently viewing. And pay attention, this can actually indicate that there is a lot of potential ahead. I'm not only talking about stocks, to be honest. Crypto is also included in that mix. A brief description of the VIX. Although it tracks projected volatility technically, traders actually use it as a gauge of market anxiety. Thus, the scenario is as follows. It essentially skyrocketed to 29. And to be clear, that's measured on a scale of 0 to 100, where 0 represents no anxiety at all, and 100 represents the maximum level of terror that this indicator may indicate. Look, the VIX suddenly shot up to 29, when the S&P 500 was in complete panic mode. That's fear screaming, by the way. Just reached 29 and the S&P 500 is only a couple percentage points away from its peak. Try to comprehend that. That combination essentially never happens. Therefore, even though the market is currently killing it, there is actual fear out there. It goes without saying that when investors lose their composure, volatility tends to blow up. Yes, when people begin making important financial decisions only on the basis of their emotions. Prepare yourself for some intense swings. Though, as I mentioned, it is technically tracking projected volatility. That is exactly why this device serves as such a reliable fear meter. Bring up the history books now. Consider the late 1990s or early 2020s for every instance of this setup that we have observed. Take a look at your screen now. The markets did not immediately, or even almost, crash. They shot skyward. For months on end, stocks was in complete tears, and many investors were taken aback by that. As you can see from the data, the S&P 500 saw gains of more than 12% over the following 12 months when these events occurred. Additionally, it ended higher over 80% of the time. The problem is that the markets are already laden with dread in situations like this. That's your key takeaway. The markets are already filled with fear. These anxious market participants have already taken a protective stance. Indeed they are. They have their safety nets in place because terror has them by the throat. And this is what really amazes me. Look at the current high stock market values with all that security in place. We're continuing at these crazy levels even though everyone is being cautious. So take a moment to visualize this. All those safety nets go as well when the dread eventually subsides. Additionally, it is the factor that sends markets upward. People quickly get over it saying things like, hold on, everything's fine. Pure FOMO takes the place of fear. Now is the time. And for rallies, it's like putting gasoline on a fire. That's why this chart is so important. To put it plainly, this arrangement is like a dream come true for us XRP holders. Cash pours into everything when traditional markets go into full risk mode. At that point, altcoins take off. This makes it very significant for XRP. Examine the history books to see if we are truly entering a new meltdown phase. In the end, cryptocurrency emerges as the overwhelming victor, and you are reminded of 2020 and 2021. Naturally, the market was jumping all over, and the VIX was hanging high early on. But as that fear eventually subsided, do you know what happened? We had the most incredible bull run ever. Is this volatility surge occurring close to record highs? Therefore, if history is repeating itself, indeed, rather than closing things down, it may be setting the stage for the next great surge upward. That's how I definitely interpret it. Really take a look at this. Look at what we can see from these indications. If you go back to the previous cycle, VIX reaches that point, correct? Here are the dates for the signals. It therefore makes its debut here in early 2020. Observe the true passage of time. But did everything implode when it originally popped? Not at all. Was the market going crazy? Of course, I was producing a lot of videos at the time, so I swung back and retrieved them. The market was undoubtedly engulfed in panic. But you know what happened? Everything increased, including cryptocurrency and stocks. Indeed, one of these signals did finally reach the top. In actuality, though, the historical data indicates that it is bullish, since everyone is pressing the panic button far too quickly. Even if you see the first warning shot from one of these rises, the data is screaming at you to do that. And notice that he has also marked it back here. The late 1990s saw a similar situation. The story is the same. The same fucking playbook is being repeated. Alright, so Credible Crypto just released this. He continues to be as certain as ever that our cycle top has not yet arrived as we speak on a Monday afternoon. Right out of the press, I've reached my initial goal of $100,000 or more in Bitcoins during this cycle, which I established in 2018. However, given the evolving price action, I am now quite certain that we will see $150,000 or more before this cycle ends. And when he began making these calls, I was actually watching. It was without a doubt total fantasy land to the majority of people back then. Not for me though. I had a hunch that Bitcoin may soar beyond $100,000 even when it was just worth $3,000. Go ahead. You might even break $1 million in the future. This is what really irritates me.